Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Pod. It's brought to you by SodaStick.com and Culturama. I'm Brandon Micheletti, former Golden Gopher great, and my co-host on Wild Fan Line, Pat Micheletti, joins me as always. Pat, a little dead time in hockey, but I'm sure it'll kick up at some point here soon with the college season starting to get underway.
Well, fingers crossed. It looks like the Big Ten schedule is going to be announced today, and it looks like they are scheduled to start on November 13th. So we'll see. And then the NCHC is starting December 1st. And I believe, and we'll find out in a minute, the WCHA middle of the month. So we're getting there. So it'll be nice, Brandon.
Yeah, let's go to some WCHA discussion with the head coach of the Bemidji State men's hockey team, Tom Serratore. Tom, really appreciate your time today. I think Pat probably knows I've asked this question to multiple coaches now, but you had just going back to last season before we move on to everything.
Brandon, you just froze on me. I didn't hear the first intro or whatever.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
All right, we love technology in 2020. I was going to say let's go back to last season because you guys had a heck of a season going. Before unfortunately the tournament had to be canceled due to COVID. How difficult was that for you, coaching a team that was playing that well and to have it just kind of end at the snap of a finger?
Yeah, it was difficult, but I just think it was difficult for everybody. We had a heck of a year going, and we were in a good spot. We were in a good place, and obviously COVID hit the middle of March right there. But everybody was in a tough spot. I don't care if you're basketball, hockey, all the winter sports, all the hockey programs, really through the nation. And it was a tough time, but you know what? It was just, that's what we had to do at that particular time.
How tough is it now? I mean, we're still in this thing. Hopefully you'll be playing some games in the next 3 weeks or so, but how difficult was it to keep the guys together now and keep them enthusiastic and, through practice and everything when you really had to sit out the first month?
Pat, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing is that we've had to do we've had to be smart on how we've handled practices, how long we've went, how many days a week you go. Because again, it becomes Groundhog Day. And I think managing your team is so critical and so important during this time. And I think once there was a schedule released, I think that was probably that carrot being dangled in front of them. That obviously, again, there's light at the end of the tunnel, because again, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. You read things, you think you might be starting sooner, but obviously we were pretty transparent with our guys from the get-go. And we just said that we don't see this thing going till probably the November or December, and that was in September when we started talking with the guys. And the one benefit, though, our guys got in the weight room. They're with our strength coach, and it's pretty intense in there. And you got to remember, these guys were on their own, and they were doing a lot of body weight. They were doing a lot of body weight in the spring and the summer. So, it's so, non-traditional for these guys. So that was important to get the ball rolling there, and we did. And but our practices have been outstanding, though. Our guys have been they've had bright eyes. They've had a great work ethic, and we feel they've been very productive.
How challenging has that been for you then? Because I think coaches in general are probably pretty detail and schedule oriented, right? You look at your calendar for the week, and you got practice and games on these days, and even once you get into practice, you've got this 10-minute block, going to be this, and this 10-minute block. How challenging has it been to be, a hockey coach in which you can't really have things scheduled or know what you're supposed to be doing at this point, given the awkwardness of the off season and the upcoming season?
No, you're right, Brandon. We are like that, and I think right now we have to be flexible, and this is new for all of us. This is a first time thing. Tom Serratore has been coaching for a long time, and I don't care if you're a first year coach. This is something that we're all doing together, and we're bouncing a lot of ideas off each other. We're using our captains a lot, to be honest with you. I think your leadership group is critical in times like this, because sometimes, right now, our players want the coaches out there. They were sick of captains practices, for example, in September.
Oh yeah.
The season ended abruptly in March. Think about that. And they didn't have they're doing body weight. They actually, we always say there's so much structure and there's there's too much structure.
Yeah,
in
there is.
sports.
Yeah, there is.
Hold on here, guys. I don't know what I
we,
just
we we can still hear you. You're
yeah,
good.
no, you know, it's me not being able to see. I just clicked on my phone. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
But we always bellyache about how much structure there is in sports, and there is. But actually, our players, they wanted structure, and I understand it. We wanted some structure. They haven't had it in so long. They wanted to get back to somebody telling them, "Let's do this drill." You know, let's do that. They wanted a strength coach. They wanted to be pushed, and so it's all been a little different and a little unique, guys.
Well, let's talk about your team heading into this season. Again, unfortunate that you couldn't see how far you could have gone last year. That being said, talk to us a little bit about this upcoming team.
You know what, Pat? I really like our team, but you're going to talk to all 60 Division I coaches.
Yeah.
It'd be the same thing. We like our team, but we lost a few puzzle pieces from last year's team. There's no question about it. We all do, but we really like our returning group. We feel a strong core of our team is returning. We felt last year we were strong in every area. That was the one thing last year. We felt obviously if we got into the NCAA tournament, and by the time when the season was shut down, I can't remember if we were 11th or 12th in the pairwise. We were one of the two, but I can't remember.
Yep.
Anyway, we just felt if we got into the NCAA tournament, we felt we had a lot of different puzzle pieces. We could win a tight game. We scoring last year, we got to 3. We were 10th in the country in the power play. I think we were second on the penalty kill. We were top 10 faceoffs. We were averaging 3.1, 3.2 goals for, right around 2 goals again. We just felt that any type of game that we were in, that we were confident that we could win that kind of game. So, and that was probably the one thing last year that, again, we were confident that way as a group. And we feel we have a lot of those puzzle pieces back this year, but it doesn't matter. It's still a different year, though. It could be a lot of the same guys, but it's still a different year. And we just have to make sure that hunger is there. We got to come out of the blocks, and we just have to make sure that this is a little bit more of a sprint this year than a marathon as well, guys. It's kind of like that bubble in the National Hockey League. You might be playing only 22, 24, 26 games.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the Stanley Cup right there. If you make all 4 rounds, it's that's 28 games potentially.
I want you to talk about, every time I see Bemidji State box scores or watch a game, your goaltending, it seems like forever, has always been kind of the star of the show up there. So one, and I know you're not going to talk about a complimentary question about yourself, but I'll throw it at you anyway. One, are you better than everyone else at identifying goaltending talent? 2, are you are you?
I can't wait to answer this one.
Yeah, are you? Are you just a defensive wizard that puts your goaltender in a good situation, or 3, have you just been lucky over all these years?
Oh gosh, well, 2 and 3, maybe lucky. Lucky's probably the best thing, but we don't put a lot of thought into our goaltending. The one thing we want to do, I'm talking recruiting.
Right.
The one thing we do, we talk about it all the time. We just want to recruit a goalie who has played a lot of minutes of junior hockey, and that's first and foremost. We want somebody who's battle tested. And the one thing I don't care if he's 6'3". I mean, I know right now we're in the era of big goalies.
Yeah.
But Zach Driscoll, I think is high end, and he might be 6 feet. He's a short 6 feet, a tall 5'11". Put it that way,
Right.
And Mike Bitzer was 5'10". Hobie Baker finalist before him. And then we had some big ones. Matt Klein, he played in the National Hockey League at 6'3". Matt Dalton was 6'1". But again, it's not necessarily anything we're looking for. We just want a battle-tested goalie who's played a lot of minutes at junior hockey, and hopefully, again, and I don't care. We want him to play probably on a team that isn't very good. That might be a middle-of-the-road team, because there's so many goaltenders. There's so many goaltenders who are playing on very good teams, very good defensive teams, or teams who are very good offensively and who have the puck a lot. And, so I think that's one thing that we just want to make sure to that process of elimination. We want a 20-year-old goaltender who's played a lot of junior hockey. And again, they still got to fit the matrix of Bemidji State. And as far as, You know what? Defensively, I think we're strong defensively, but I think everybody in hockey right now is strong defensively.
Right.
Everybody reloads hard. Everybody gets above the puck. Everybody takes away time and space. People, again, in the defensive zone, there's some defensive schemes where, defensemen box out. Some they layer now. You can see if the puck's at the point, you'll see two. You'll see the forward, then you'll see a defenseman, the second layer trying to block it. I mean, everybody does things a little different, but there's an emphasis on obviously keeping the puck out of your net. There's no question. And, I think again, we probably do a decent job of that. And I think a lot of it too is puck management and probably a little bit of, where your emphasis is as a coach and where your emphasis is maybe as a collective group. But there's a lot of things that go into it. And we've been fortunate over the years. There's no question.
Okay. Don't get mad at me now when I come after you a little bit here. And it's not just you, and I'm talking all of college hockey.
I know we talk a lot of them.
Okay. I mean, I see, I think, we teach these kids skills and, the emphasis is skill, skating, shooting, passing, stick handling. And then we get to a level where, man, if we can keep a team under 3, we got a chance to win. Have we gotten to the point where we're almost too defensive, or is that the way you have to win, or aren't the kids skilled enough, or what is it? Help me out here.
I think I actually think it's the opposite, Pat. You're thinking we're too defensive. I think the players are so good. I think it is a player's game. I think we do stay out of it to a certain degree, but I think right now we're taking players who are so. I'll say that they're pretty darn skilled, but they're great skaters.
Yes,
and I think college hockey is such a great skating game.
Yeah,
and you take a look at the defensemen. That's probably a better thing. Like the defensemen right now are so mobile.
Yeah,
and on everybody's team. And I just think when the skating is so good, it's just easy to take away time and space. I really do. And I do think, and I think the other thing is, Pat, there's no question. I don't know if it's defensive, but I think the habits, I look at things different. I don't ever like to say teams are defensive, but they have good habits. And I think right now in the National Hockey League and in college hockey and junior hockey, the habits are very good. Stick is always on the ice. Defensemen are always contesting shots. I mean, when you and I played, I mean, my gosh, we'd use the defenseman as a screen. The defenseman might have their stick outside their body. I mean, there's this right now the details and the habits, and that starts at a young age. Are very good, and I think that plays into it too. They're just very good habits right now, and I think that's a testament to the coaching in hockey. I really do.
Well, that's a great answer, because now I understand a little bit better. Okay, I mean, because I was always of the mindset. No, really, and I'm serious. That okay, because you talk to every coach. And every coach will tell you, we want to, get up in the play. We want to attack. We want to forecheck. We want to blah, blah, blah. And then, it's like, you talk to some after, we kept them under 3. And, I'm like, where's this offensive production that you talked to me about before the game or before the season? And, but I understand it better now.
You know what, too? Like, there's a few other things, and not that we want to get tactical in here, but it's always good yakking. But like I'm telling, teams forecheck hard. Like there's not a team I think that forechecks as hard as us. We pressure the puck everywhere.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes you almost over pursue, but you want your guys skating, and you want like my thing is let's eliminate thinking. Let's pressure, and let's rely on effort and hard work, and try to create turnovers. But then again, you're coming back once the puck goes the other way. You're coming back as hard as you can too. So I just think again, there's a lot of great skating. I think there's a lot of pressure. I think there's a lot of excitement in our game, and I actually think there is a lot of turnovers. But I also think there's great recovery, and I think there's just things like that play into it.
Well, let me do a follow-up question then, Tom. So, do you believe that scoring more offense would be beneficial to adding that? And if so, are there any rule changes that you could, they've talked forever about reducing the size of the equipment to goaltenders. Heck, they've even said make the nets bigger. Are there any kind of rule changes you would make, or is everything right now the way it should be?
Brandon, I hate to sit there and echo what you just said, but I would like to have the goaltenders' equipment be a little, smaller. I have no problems now. You know what? I'm not like I think I'm a hockey purist, but I'm not. I think sometimes too that we've got to wake up and we got to realize that the game has changed and there's certain modifications that we do need to make. I would not have a problem with increasing the net size. And I don't know if you bow it. I don't know if you bow it. I don't know if you make it maybe another, a couple inches, maybe an inch to 2 inches higher. But I would like to, right now, I mean, there's so much, the guys stay inside the dot so much. I'd like to start seeing more, I'd like to start seeing shooters score on the initial shot versus the rebound. I guess is what I'm getting at.
Right.
And I think that would be a step in the right direction. But I would like to sit there and I would like to play with the nets a little bit. And I really would, the goaltenders equipment a little bit. I wish all ice sheets were small, but that's not going to happen. Everybody thinks there's more offense on Olympic ice. It's the opposite. It's more of a soccer game. You can keep guys to the outside. And the one thing I like about small ice, there's turnovers, man. You can play. There's physicality. There's pressure. And when there's pressure and physicality, there's going to be turnovers. And Pat Micheletti's that's where he scores his goals. That's where your goal scores. They're going to take advantage of those situations, and they're creative in those situations, and they can make plays quick and they can think quick. And I just wish that the ice sheets were a little smaller.
Okay, let's move on to your league, the WCHA, the final year, and then you move to the CCHA. Really not a big difference. Same teams pretty much. How's the league, with all of this going on and, you guys trying to fit in a schedule and the financials of the whole thing? How's everybody doing?
Well, again, Pat, it's the same as everybody.
Yeah.
We all have uniquenesses and a lot of things too, like our state guidelines. I'm finding out that during COVID right here, just in our league meetings, our state guidelines are different than Michigan's.
Yeah.
Michigan's, Alaska state guidelines are different than all of ours. So now we have this league with teams from different states. And when we go to this particular state, we got to abide by what their state guidelines are. And when they come to our facilities, they got to abide by our state guidelines, which I don't want to get into all that right now, guys, but it's been tough we just had a conference call 2 days ago, and there's a lot of frustration out there, but there's nothing you can do because the rules are the rules. And so it's not easy. And then, then you have travel. The travel component is dicey too, because obviously once you leave your little bubble and you're in an airplane or you get to your hotel, obviously, because we're testing, things can go haywire there. So there's just so many moving parts right now that are so different and so unique. And we've got a plan. We all have plans. The Big Ten, the WCHA, the NCHC, the ECAC, Atlantic Hockey, Hockey East. We all have plans, but until we start implementing these plans by playing, it's going to be interesting what's going to happen and what are we going to be doing at that particular time to modify some of these plans.
We'll talk about the move to the CCHA then after this, because I don't think I've heard from you since the decision was made by the 7 schools in WCHA. What went into that decision, at least from a Bemidji State standpoint?
Well, I just think, again, we wanted to reduce our footprint. I mean, I think it's pretty, it's pretty common sense. We just wanted to reduce our footprint. And we just felt, again, that we were traveling too much. We were in airplanes too much. And we wanted to, we gave it a shot. We tried. It wasn't anybody's fault. This is what we were told in 2010 when there was going to be realignment. This, you guys, you're going to be together. We tried, and just we just felt, again, it was best for the programs that obviously are moving on to the CCHA, that we reduce the footprint, we reduce travel, you minimize cost, you increase rivalries, and that's what we did, guys. And it's exciting, but it's also, again, it's also tough when you're leaving a league and you're leaving teams, because there's friendships, there are rivalries, and there's fans, and there's alumni, and there's a lot of things that play into it. But we just felt, again, at the end of the day, we had to do that, and we made the call, and that's where we're at right now.
Let's talk about one of your alumni, because there's a lot of Minnesota Wild fans that listen to this podcast. Brad Hunt has kind of made a little bit of a career for himself, settled down a little bit, playing on that third pairing for the Minnesota Wild. What do you remember about him at Bemidji State? From all accounts, he's a great guy. What do you remember him from a player standpoint, and Are you, did you see this coming where he's going to be able to kind of settle in here in the National Hockey League for a couple seasons?
There's a lot. First off, Brad Hunt is the same Brad Hunt you guys know. I know. I mean, he's the most genuine person maybe I've ever coached, and but there's not a player that he's ever played with will ever say a bad word about him. He's just the greatest human being that there is. And he's the greatest team guy there is. And when he's got an infectious personality, but he's tough. He's good. And guys, he's the leading scorer. He's the leading scoring defenseman at Bemidji State history. And like, we had some pretty good defensemen.
Yeah, right.
Defensemen. So it's not like he just came out of the woodwork. He was a freshman and was a key component of leading us to the Frozen Four. Him and Matt were like, you look at that team in 2009 we had, like, you look back at the players, they were legit. I mean, we had players that were good national hockey. Yeah. There's a reason we made it. It wasn't just all luck. And so Brad Hunt, I mean, he always had a rocket of a shot. He's a team guy. He's coachable. He does everything the right way. He's got an offensive flair that I've never coached a defenseman with that kind of offensive flair. And he's got, I don't know, I'm spitballing. You guys know the National Hockey League better than I do, but I can't see that there's got to be 15 guys that have a better slap shot in a one-timer in the NHL than Brad. Yep. I mean, he's got the best one-timer I've ever coached. I think he won the hardest shot in the American Hockey League All-Star game. If not, he was like second. And he's got an attribute, and that's his stick. But he's got soft hands. He can make plays. He can walk the line. He's a power play specialist. He's great on the breakouts. He can make those 3, 4, 5 foot little passes. He can elude a forechecker. He knows how to use his partner. He's not a very big guy. He's not 5'10", but if you take a look, and it's no different in college. Yeah. He doesn't overly engage. He's about a half a stick length away. He doesn't get beat. He doesn't put himself in a position where he's going to get out muscled. He plays so cerebral, and he does that now. He did it with us. And now, am I surprised that he's in the National Hockey League? Those 5'9" defensemen 8 years ago probably weren't getting the opportunity. Right. But he had to go to the American League, and guess what? He was cutting his teeth in the American League, and he put up numbers in the American League. He was in the All-Star games, and then he'd be a call-up with the teams he was playing. And he just, again, he defied all odds that way.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, we really appreciate your time today. I know on short notice, and there was a kind of a big election going on last night, so we appreciate you.
What was I? Was I the late ad guys or what? Hey, Mick, you called me last night, so somebody bailed on you. I'll call Tommy.
Well, and thanks for answering the phone. By the way, next time I call, you better answer the phone.
It's the first time in my life I've never picked up the phone when you've called. I think.
Yeah, I know, and I'm hurt. All right.
I was gonna tell you I fell asleep on the couch. Yeah. I was gonna tell you.
Well, Tom, we always love having you on. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Pat. Take care, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Tom Serratore, the head coach of the Bemidji State. Another guest that we could talk to for like 2 hours at a time, Pat.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But and he has stories, and he's smart. And you know what? I mean, talk about a coaching career. I think he's been there now 22, 23 years.
This is his 20th season coming up.
20th. Okay.
Yeah.
And I tell you, and talk about loyalty. He's probably could have gone to other schools, and he stayed there, and he built it. He got the rink built, and he just comes from a great family and a great guy.
Go to sodastick.com to get your original Minnesota sports inspired goods. They just launched their partnership with Michelob Golden Light for the Mick Golden Light Hunting Club merch line. You can see them right here. These two hats, if you're a big hunter. The logo features a bottle of Michelob Golden Light with deer antlers. They've got it on blaze orange shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. Get geared up for the hunting opener. If you haven't seen it yet, you got to check it out. And we're going to hook you up with free shipping on your order. Use the code KFAN for free shipping. That is sodastick.com. Original Minnesota sports inspired goods. Use the code KFAN for free shipping. Pat, like I said at the onset of this, there's not a lot going on from a hockey standpoint, though. I did find it interesting, the OHL, which is, of course, the Canadian Junior League, in which Marco Rossi dominated last year.
Yes, he did.
They are planning on having a season, but they are prohibiting checking. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on this, because to me, if it's so dangerous that we can't have body checking, then why even have them out there together? That in close quarters on face-offs, and hockey's a game in which you're going to be near each other. It just seems to kind of counteract logical thinking on my part. To me, either have a season where you play it normally or don't have a season.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't hear the explanation as to why, and so I can't comment on that. But you're 100% correct. And we all know, Brandon, I mean, hockey is a game where you have physical contact, and
Yep.
it's part of the game, and that's part of the reason why we play it. And so I believe that they're going to revisit that a little bit from what I hear, but yeah, it makes no sense to me to even have a season if you're not going to play the game the way it's meant to be played.
Well, the other aspect of this, Pat, is some of these players are playing because they want to play in the National Hockey League someday. Right. If you're an NHL scout, how do you go about evaluating a game in which there's no physical contact? Yeah, you can see which players are fast and which players have good hands, but as well as I know, it's a different game when there's contact involved. I look at a guy like Marco Rossi. If he had played last year without contact, part of his thing is he's a smaller player, and maybe he dropped to the Wild because he's smaller. And I should say height smaller. He's not smaller from a thickness standpoint. But there's a guy that when I watched him on tape, he could handle contact. He could he could shut off, if there's a battle in the corner, he came out with the puck. He always would go to the net. He's not a small guy that stays on the perimeter. He'll go to the net. And to me, if you had a no checking league, how many scouts would watch him and go, well, yeah, it's great that he's dominating, but I don't know if he can handle the physical play.
Well, think about it. Okay. Let's say Zach Parise, where does he live? He lives in front of the net, right? Yep. And he plants himself, right? And let's say, pick a defenseman. Doesn't matter. Any
Eric Johnson.
Hockey, yeah.
Since he's the one who likes to cross-check Parise in the back all the time.
Johnson. So Zach is in front of the net, right? And Eric Johnson's going to say, oh, not today, Zach. I can't touch you. So feel free to get the puck and score. That's not how hockey's played, right? I mean, you live in front of the net. That's where you score goals. That's where you get dirty. And to take that out of the game, it's foolish. So hopefully they'll come to a better decision here soon enough.
All right, some Minnesota Wild stuff. I read a story online that I thought brought up an interesting point. Obviously, Bill Guerin's made a ton of moves this offseason and changed some some of the forwards specifically, right. And then obviously you got the goalie as well. But the article brought up about how Bill Guerin is still kind of in a flexible spot. He made some trades that brought in some guys on 1-year deals.
Yeah.
Right. So Nick Bukestad was the first. He's on a 1-year deal. They traded Luke Cunnin and brought in Nick Bonino from Nashville. He's on a 1-year deal. Marcus Johansson they acquired. He's on a 1-year deal. So one, you're putting your players in a situation where they're on prove it deals, right? All three of those guys kind of need to go out there and prove it so they can.
You want to continue to play.
In Bukestad's case, if you want to continue to stay in the league, you got to prove it.
Right.
Johansson, Bonino, if you want a contract or some stability, you got to go out and prove it. So you have that element of it. The other element of it is these are now 3 guys that, let's say the season's not going too well for the Wild because, let's face it, they're going with some younger guys, and I don't want to say it's a rebuild, but it's not a team that's expected to be a cup contender necessarily. You've got some guys that you can now trade for draft picks if you want to accumulate more draft picks. A guy like Johansson, given how well he did in the playoffs for Boston a couple years ago,
would take him in a heartbeat. Yeah.
Someone would take him, and then at the same time, you're also going to give yourself some cap space flexibility after the season's over. Those are 3 guys that are making over $10 million combined. So I just thought it was interesting that, Bill Guerin has put this team in a situation where, let's say they all play well and make the playoffs. Great. If not, you've put yourself in a situation where you can get some prospects, you can get some draft picks, or you can or get some cap space and giving yourself some flexibility moving forward here.
Well, and I hope the Wild fans watch this because you made a lot of sense there. And what it tells me, Brandon, is that he just doesn't have, I'm going to trade this guy for this guy, but he's got a plan, right? And you laid it out there. And it gives him options, and it gives the organization options, and it gives younger guys who may be in Iowa or who are draft picks playing another year junior, another year to mature and get experience. So, you know, I really like what he's done and the potential that, you know, of course, I still think that he's going to make another move or two before they get going. I absolutely believe that. But that being said, I love the plan that he at least appears to have in place, and his vision for getting this team younger, faster, stronger, and in cup contention in a couple of years.
The other part you mentioned about the younger players, these moves were made in a position where they're not shutting out younger players from being able to play in their roles, right? Like they're leaving a position open right now. Maybe they make a trade. Maybe a number one center all of a sudden is available, right? Which I don't know if that'll happen. But they've put themselves in a position where, let's say Marco Rossi shows he can play right away. We have an opportunity for him. Kevin Fiala is your number one guy now. There's no doubt about that. We're going to put him in a position where he's your number one guy. Kaprizov's going to have a top six role. You know, for years it was, we're going to have our Parisis and our Koivus and our Stalls and our Suitors, and they're going to get, in Pominville back in the day, like they're going to play their set role, and we're not going to allow the Coils and the Zuckers and the guys
better. Exactly.
And they've put themselves in a spot now where we're going to give the young guys an opportunity to show they can play and develop them properly.
Yeah, and that's great, and that'll give those guys confidence too. And yeah, are there going to be growing pains? Sure, there are. With Kaprizov, with Rossi, if Addison gets a chance at some point during the year, Belpedio's now re-signed. He's going to fight for a spot, and that gives him something to look forward to. Nico Sturm, another guy. What is he? We've seen the defensive side. The responsibility defensively and stuff. Does he have anything in his game offensively? We might find that out. And I think there's a nice mix. But I think there's going to be another move made. I really, really believe that.
Well, it's been pretty quiet up until now. It's in the Matt Dumba news has been.
Then again, we don't know when the season's going to start. There's rumors flying left and right. First, it was January, and I think they haven't moved off of that. But a lot of people that I've talked to and that have hinted that it may be closer to February before they get things going. And I guess listen. They need fans in the stands. We all know that, and maybe they're just buying time. We're going to have to wait and see how that all shakes out. But and maybe that's why we're kind of in a just a holding pattern as far as players and trades and moves and that sort of thing.
Well, Pat, why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers about another one of our sponsors of the Beyond the Pod podcast, and that would be Culturama.
I will. Having trouble getting brand recognition, media exposure, or promotion? Looking to find specialized tournament or event management services? At Culturama, they cultivate, collaborate, and connect you to new business strategies to maximize your organization's publicity through strategic brand development, multimedia creation, social media design, sponsorship promotion, targeted marketing plans, or event management services. With over 20 years of experience, Culturama creative teams will guide you through a comprehensive plan to reach your brand goals. Follow, like, and subscribe to Culturama today and learn how to obtain a PR plan.
Pat, one idea I floated a couple months ago that I think you agreed with at the time was the idea of trading Matt Dumba, bringing in a center, and then going if Dustin Byfuglien is interested, bringing him in free agency, and he could fill your right shot, a guy on the power play who can score, an offensive defenseman, and he could fill that void at least temporarily until maybe a Kalen Addison is able to do so. His agent Ben Hankinson was on Michael Russo's podcast within the last week and said it's more likely Byfuglien will retire than return. Hankinson did say that Byfuglien did meet with Bill Guerin, so the two did have he confirmed they had a conversation, and that if Bufflin was to ever return, Minnesota would seem like a likely destination. But I got not a surprise because he's been out of hockey here for a little bit of time. That more likely he retires than returns.
Well, and here's the thing, and a lot of people say, well, why wouldn't he want to come and play in Minnesota? He lives here, that sort of thing. Got to remember, I think he's going to be 34, 35 years old, right? He's had a lot of injuries, and the last one was not a good one with his ankle. He's played a lot of hard minutes, Brandon.
Yep.
And people don't understand. I mean, he was in, he had to hit everything. He had to fight a little bit. He had to, he played a lot of minutes. And, do I think he still has something in the tank? Absolutely. But, to him, maybe his body's just telling him and mentally that, it's time to move on to something else. And he's made good money and good for him. And, he likes to hunt and fish and do all of those things. And so, and from the Wild's perspective, you want a player who is going to commit and play and not, just kind of not take it as serious as one might think. So, I think both sides probably agreed it's probably not a good move. It would be great. A motivated Dustin Bufflin and a guy who really wants to continue playing, but appears that he doesn't want to, and more power to him.
My memory's shot, Pat, so I don't know if I talked to you about this or not, but Mitchell Miller, the defenseman.
Yeah, we didn't discuss it. No.
We didn't discuss it, but
No.
Interesting that the Arizona Coyotes renounced the rights
Yeah.
to him. And then the next day, North Dakota cut ties with him. He was going to be a freshman defenseman for the North Dakota Fighting Hawks this year. You look at that Arizona Coyotes draft now. They had already lost their first 2 draft picks.
Yeah.
Because of a violation. So they didn't have a draft pick in the first 3 rounds in this draft. Mitchell Miller was their 4th round pick. He was their first pick in that draft, and now he is off the roster. So basically, the Arizona Coyotes just had a draft year, which is just nothing.
Yeah. And the thing is, they knew the history of the kid, and still, drafted him. They probably, knowing what they had to deal with, you would think they would say, let's play it safe. The next kid up is probably close to or as good as this kid. And, they couldn't slide him through. And we can get into that if you want to get into it. It's, difficult situation.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. Definitely the accusations, and I shouldn't even say accusation because it sounds like he fessed up to it.
Yeah.
We're not pretty. Well, no. I don't mean to end on a down note, but another down note to that. Travis Roy, former Boston University player who was paralyzed on his first shift, died at the age of 45. So sadness in the hockey world. Obviously, who knows how much that injury kind of changed the game, right? I mean.
Yeah.
In youth hockey, they started putting stop signs on the back. Yep. I can't say I haven't been around youth hockey and high school hockey here for 5-6 years now, so yep. I don't know what the last stretch has been like, but definitely I think the amount of hits from behind has, you see it at the college level, has gone down considerably. Still not perfect, and we still need to improve on that. But I'd have to think that Travis Roy, along with many others, Jack Jablonski, stuff like that. Has had a major impact on the safety of the game.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Brandon, and very sad. And I met Travis, and he was such an inspiration to so many kids. But that being said, when I'm doing games, college games, pro games, and I see a hit from behind, and you will hear me kind of explode a little bit because. I don't think that players should be kept in the game. I think they should be kicked right out. I don't care. Anytime you hit somebody from behind, you're putting somebody's life at risk, and it drives me crazy. We're not tough enough on it. There's too many. Well, he hit him kind of on the side. I don't care. You see a number and you hit from behind, you're gone. In my opinion, we don't enforce it enough, and it scares me every time I see a hit like that. And it's just disrespect for the game, disrespect for your opponent. And, we all love the game and we all want, to help each other. And that's not one way we do it. That's for sure.
Pat, great stuff as always. We will talk to you next week right here on Beyond the Pod.
Thanks, Brandon. Have a great week.
All right. Thanks to Pat. Thanks to Tom Serratore, head coach of Bemidji State. Beyond the Pod, as always, brought to you by sodastick.com and Culture Ammo. We really appreciate you for listening or watching to this episode of Beyond the Pod. Bye.